Hello, y'all. This is Daniel. Uh, been meaning to get this video out to y'all for a while, but been dealing with stuff, and to be honest, the motivation just wasn't there. Still, said I was gonna do it, so here it is. The topic of the day is what I've termed my equation for sustainable happiness. A pretty pointing title, but there's reason behind that. How it comes into play is not only does it help you address elements of your life to find happiness, but it also helps you to address elements that make your happiness unsustainable. So I do have some documents that I've made up for it, and basically all it does is you keep track of what you do throughout the day. The basic, activities. You don't have to write, blew my nose, whatever. Things like that don't matter. But say you played video games for an hour, or you cleaned your room, or things like that. Those are the type of things you keep track of. And the reason why you keep track of these things is that you can assess three primary values to them: the workload, the stress factor, and the reward factor. Now, how this comes into play is you try to balance certain elements of it. For instance, you have things in your life that cause stress. Like for me, running errands. I don't like running errands. I don't like having to drive and deal with traffic. I don't like having to interact with people that I don't even know. These things stress me. But there's a lot of things in life that need done, whether it's errands, dishes, things like that. They just need done. But they add stress when you do them. So as you keep track of them, things you assess these stress values to it. Things that are negligible stress could be like maybe a 1. Things that are low levels of stress would be like a 3. Things that are moderate stress could be around 5 to 6. High level stress, 7, 8. Generally, we're dealing with a general 1 to 10 scale here. On pretty much everything with this equation, it's 1 to 10. So how you start off is you have 2 weekly things you keep track of. I know I'm jumping around on this video. Still not in the right headspace to be making it, but I'm getting it done regardless. At the beginning of each week, uh, the first thing you do is you answer 4 primary questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your happiness, your stress, your depression, and your value of time? Now, while you do this every day, you evaluate this every week. And that's so you can start looking for any patterns. Like you notice, even though you're getting a lot of high reward factors throughout your daily exchanges, you're still depressed. Why are you depressed? That means you're missing something. And the whole point of this equation and this basically the system that I'm defining for you today is to keep track of where your time is being spent, what it's being spent in, and to better adjust your activity to get the results you're looking for. So each day you answer those 4 questions on a scale of 1 to 10. Personally, I prefer to do it in the mornings before the day has influenced my mindset on that. That's up to you how you want to do it. You just want to be consistent. Don't do it in the morning one day, the night on the next. Choose a time, do it at that time. Another thing you do weekly is you set a series of goals for yourself, anywhere from like 3 to 5 goals. In the test week that I did it, my weekly goals was to make my bed every day, to do my basic warm-up routines, which is some basic stretching and light exercises, and at least a couple of times a day, to work out, going to the gym twice a week, and to take hourly breaks at least twice a day. And that's where I take a break and I'll do 10 push-ups, or I'll do some squats, or I'll just get up and move around or something. Basically get off my butt. And to drink half a gallon of water per day was what I did on my test week. So throughout the week, as you do stuff, Monday through Friday, or weekends, how you set it up. You keep track of what you're doing. And I'll give you a simple example like I did for the first week. I got up at 7:30. At 8 o'clock, I made my bed. That was a work factor of 1, because there's still something you got to do. I went ahead and I added, just one stress factor. It's not like I enjoy making my bed. It's just something that he's done. I picked up my room at about 8:20. That was another stress factor and another work. Oftentimes your work and stress will correlate, but not always. So that's why I have them as separate values. From 8:30, I watched YouTube for about half an hour, and I gave myself about half a point of reward factor. 9 o'clock, I did my daily stretching and exercises. That was a work factor of 3 and a de-stressor of 3 because I helped to work stress out with my workouts. At 9:30, I went to the gym for an hour. That is a work factor of 8 with a stress relief of 8. I hit the gym pretty hard that day. At 11:20, I ran errands for about an hour. That was a work and stress factor, adding stress of 3, and a work of 3 because you got to get out, you got to physically do things. It's 5 o'clock. I watched a movie for about 2 hours. Consider that a reward plus 2. At 6 p.m., I had it written in military time. I did daily stretching and exercising again, which is the second time that day, adding another work and de-stressing factor of 3. At 8 o'clock p.m., I played video games for about 3 hours, which is a reward factor of 12. At 10:30, I went to bed. So the daily goals I met, I just did this by numerical, which was the first one, making my bed. I did number 2 one time, which is I picked up my room. I did number 3 once, which is I went to the gym. I did number 4 twice, which was the daily exercises routines. And I drank the half gallon of water. So I did number 5. So I was able to meet all of my daily goals in that day. Now, so you're asking yourself, what do these factors actually mean? Like reward factor. What I classify as a reward factor is where you are getting a release, like a dopamine release, but you're not really doing anything physical to earn it. And this is things like video games, TV time, things where you're just sitting down, but you're getting a dopamine release as if you're actually physically getting up and doing stuff. This is just pure net gain here. The work factor is things that can cause a release, but you are physically working to do them. These are things like working out, going and hanging out with your friends and stuff, because you have to physically invest your time into this and your effort to achieve that reward. Stress factor, pretty straightforward. Does it add to your stress or does it take it away? So what we end up doing when we do this is we tally all this up throughout the day. For instance, in my test week, I did a work factor of 19, and I had 9 stress relief. So it's positive 9 anti-stress, which means, it was a pretty good day. I was not really stressed, felt pretty good, felt healthy. The reward factor was 14.5 hours. So I actually had more work put in than reward. Now, where this comes into on a weekly basis is you can't gauge your overall health just on a single day, because some days you're going to be able to do more of this, other days you're going to be able to do less. So you also want to have a weekly add up of these numbers to see where they stand. Now, where they come into play is obviously if you're stressed, you're not going to be happy. If you're relaxed, you're generally going to feel happier. And that's where the basic stress to anti-stress equation comes into play. You want to find some form of balance. And I say balance because if you're just doing just pure anti-stresses and you're not getting anything done that needs done, like dishes, errands, and all that stuff, ultimately you are going to end up unhappy because you're going to be overloaded with all these things that still need done. So you need to balance what needs done and what you want to do to find that equation, to find that balance in your life where you're productive but content. Where the sustainability factor also comes in is within the work to reward factor. So you want your work to reasonably be equal to your reward. And the reason for this is, we've all heard the phrase, all work, no play, makes Jack a dull boy, right? If all you're doing is working and you're not getting any reward, you're going to see that in that statistic of the value of time, because you're not going to feel like your effort means anything. It's not going to feel valuable because it's not getting anything in return. All I do is I put in effort, I don't get anything back type mentality. And that's that's not sustainable happiness. You're going to end up miserable, and it's going to show up. If all you do is reward factors, you play video games all day, and you barely do anything physical or anything like that, that's going to cause a couple of factors. The first one is it's generally going to lead to anxiety. And the reason for that is, especially like in the excitable type games, you got the shooters, your jump scare games, and all that stuff, you're getting a high level of chemical reactions in the brain, a lot of reaction. This is also going to lead to elements of excess energy and anxiety. And if you're not doing anything physical to address that energy in your system, you're going to suffer from anxiety. And it's going to upset you. You're going to find yourself frustrated, you're going to find yourself stressed, and you're probably not going to understand why. That is the point of this system, to help you understand why. That what you do matters, and how it affects the way you feel and see the world. The other element when it comes to the reward is because you have these high levels of reward factor with very little maintenance. If you go out there and you spend time with friends, and you have a reasonably good time, you can get a reward factor, say the equivalent of like 3 to 4. Because it's not going to be super crazy most times because, you're just hanging out. But you still physically have to go over there, you have to do stuff. There's still a physical cost to it. Now, if all you do is play video games, and the reason why I have this separate is because you can do that significantly longer. You don't have the physical maintenance to maintain the stimulation levels. You're just sitting there holding a controller. And you can get anywhere from 6, even 8 to 9 levels of stimulation depending on the game. And this is a lot of activity in your brain. It's a lot of dopamine release. And the fact is, it is not sustainable because it feeds into a cycle where you have to spend all your time seeking rewards to maintain that level of excitement and happiness. And things have a tendency to get in the way of that. Things don't get done. You end up with anxiety issues because, there's only so many hours in the day. And your overall average needed to find happiness reaches above your ability to maintain it. And that throws things way out of whack. So that is why it's very important to balance your work and your reward factors, just as you need to balance your stress. Now I know it's a lot easier if you have it right out in front of you and you're doing it. Just having it abstractly in your head probably sounds a lot more complicating. And to be honest, I don't expect a super lot of people to even try it, because most people, they want the reward. They don't want the work. They don't see the value in the work. But the fact is, you need it to find value in yourself and in your life. You need it to make how you feel sustainable, so you're not happy for a couple of days and then miserable for a week trying to recover. Anyway, so if there's any questions, you're welcome to comment. I'll respond to any comments I actually get. I pretty much gave up on that part. This will probably be the last video I put out because, like I said, I've tried to get some feedback on stuff. I've tried to get some interaction, and it just flat out has not happened. So it is what it is. Time to move on. So, like I said, if anybody does comment, have any concerns, questions, or don't quite understand how it works, then I can do a more hands-on approach in one more video just to show how it plays out in time. And maybe that'll help people if there's interest toward it. Either way, this video's over, so you have a good night.